Hey people, how many of y'all got a sister-in-law that's a nymphos? In that last movie I read one of these lines in Ruth where it was talking about the aliens, and I was curious, and so I had to come back and read it in the Greek and in the Hebrew. I remember reading this chapter before in the Hebrew years ago, and it seemed like, Ruth was a freak. And so here in the Greek, they say your sister-in-law is a son nymphos. S-Y-N is together, and N-Y-M, the nymphos. And in the Hebrew, this is changed to Maureen, sieve they in medical homey. So my people is O-M-M-I, and the Pharaoh's people is O-M-M-U, the homos. And this is homey, and this is her people. And so this is a word for lesbians. And it's a lot sweeter than the word they give for her daughter-in-law, because that's a clit. And the clit homey with her. So, sin, S-Y-N, synchronize, means together, nymphos. And so nymphos, the mania is the crazy part. But the nympho is Latin, for the Libya. And so sin nympho means together nymphos, together labias. It means lesbians. It means two labia smashed together. It's where your word synchronize come from. It's the chronize at the time and sync together. It comes from the Greek, then they changed the U into the Y also. And I'm sure it's where our word sing comes from. You have to be in sync. It's also, on the second day, the S-N-Y, the sin. And so I'm sure that was the first sin, is putting two of them together. First there was one, and then there was sin. And so it's in the base of all the words in the Hebrew. Most of the words in Hebrew, they say, mean two. So I'm sure this has nothing to do with two here. Yeah, again is a better definition. This is actually, like the judgment, the septu. If you accept to it. So I learned some stuff here in this Greek. I learned why there's so many different words for me and you. The C and the sow and the Sue. They say is all you. And the same for me, it'll be the same way. And I caught it because it's talking about everything you do, I do. Your God, my God, is how I caught this. Sow and mow. And that's what it means. The sow, leos, the sow, the one plants, and leos, mow, and the one that harvests, that cuts it down. And so this doesn't mean you and me. This is what they told him it meant. No, the law says you sow and me mow. But, it doesn't mean that. It means plant and mow and harvest. And so the Greek and the Hebrew story are different. The Greek seems to be talking about the Chinese people traveling the route. There is no Ruth. It's the route, R-O-U-T-E. R-O-U-T-E. The route and the law. And it'll be spelled different. There's two different Greek Bibles here. But this Naomi, you can see it better in the Hebrew, where it stays pretty constant, N-O-M-Y, Nomi. And so Nomi is a law, and anomy is the government, to govern, anomy, the management, the government. Most of the words you see this come up with, it's going to come up behind a O. There's only one word where it comes up behind an I. But, autonomy, auto, the self-governed, to the autonomy, it's to govern, autonomy, and it's to govern the route. And so in the Hebrew, it's talking about migrant farm workers that come to harvest. They only come in harvest time. And in the Greek, you see this as no people. And it's changed from the Septuagint. You see how this Naomi spelt much different here. And it means no blood in, not my people. No hema, no blood in, not my people. So in the Hebrew and in the Greek, all these family member names are never constant, and it's because it's not family member names. It's talking about astrology. But you sister-in-laws out there, down here all the guys dig it. They think it's cool, and they did back then too. You see it right here on his honest. The honest trips in, he sing nymphos, the smashing nymphs. Now back when his Hebrew was written, they didn't think it was so cool. They got interpreted as just grant Yahweh you that may find rest each in the house of her husband. It in you the looks, Y-E-W, you, and the looks to mix on. You're getting mixed looks. It in you the looks to the mixin', the men which has is. They giving you some mixed looks. And you can see it just below here, it's the same, but now the nymph has HS at the end. Where, they're saying this yours coming from over here. And then they're getting this law here, from Naomi, the autonomy, the law. And that's in the translation, the first paragraph. Naomi's widowed, his sons and husband all die. And so then she takes a new route. There's no Ruth in here, it's the route. And then you see it here by line 15, in forced route of I do. And that's the same word when Genesis 4, when it said Adam knew his wife. I do means to get married. That's why you still say it today, I do. And it was a force, P-R-O, 4-S, force, the force route, R-O-U-T-E. The T-H or the T-E, or the D. And so all this, your people, my people, and your God, my God, this is all a wedding oath between two women. Leosu, Leos mu, and of the Osu, Theos mu. And so this is all mistranslated, but that's what it is, And of the on, the on is the gods are above. And of the on, a pot on is, a pot on of May. Hey, if I got something in my pot, you pot on of May. You're very welcome to it. And the cock they take, and that's the same word in the Hebrew when it says they took them wives, TQH, and a cock they take, so may. So they're bisexual and then they work together. So may it add. And po yesay, this is the base word in for created, per orally, the mouth, and this is the base word for Jesus, the IHS, and it means yes, Y-E-S, and then S-A-Y, for yes say. And curious may what add, they got this add stuck over here because people knew it was in this line. But this is pro, for and s, forced, they each, and at the not tos. You got yeses, the things that you're allowed to do, the yeses, and you got things that you really ought not do because they come with death. And it's T-H-A, the not tos. You better not do that, that'll kill you. But you can see it's about the astrology right here. It's the die is through, and the stellia is through the stars. Names is on. Through the stars a name is on them of, to sow, to plant. And so when the stars, the star comes up and says, it's time to plant, then the migratory planters come to town to plant. And that's what this is about. It's not lesbians on earth, it's lesbians in the heavens. It's the planets and stars that are married up and telling you, that the name is on and it's time to sow. And so that's kind of hard to get. I have to read both of these Greek Bibles before I can understand that one. And I'm not sure which one come first, but they're different. There's a lot of misspellings, or there's a lot of changed spellings, and then sometimes they totally change lines and leave lines out in these two Bibles because they don't fit. But it's the die, the through, the stella, and then this little wave tells me, you don't see it on the other Bible, but it tells me to move the E over. It says the stella I, E-Y-E. And then this will tell me, to read this backwards first. And so it's A-N on, and then N-A-M-E-S, on a name's on. And then, U-O-M, whom, and then E-M, them, whom, them of. And through a star I, on a name's on, whom, them of. And then the key, is just the vav, the W-U, and whom, them of was of. And the waves tell me, to move the O over, so it's was of, or was ova, which is the egg. And you can see a different spelling in Bethlehem in these two Bibles. This one's spelt with a B-A-Y-T-H-L-E-E-M. But this one, is E-I-S, this, and then B-H-T-E-L-E, bottle. You read that H as a O. Same in the Hebrew, Noah is spelled N-H, and they get a O somehow out of the H. But it's the bottle them. And you can see that it means bottle, to divide. H means to divide, and divide. And that's what it says in the Hebrew on the first day when they divided the light. He was bottling them up. It's when you're finished brewing your liquor, and you bottle it up. And this bottle them, and this is we, W-E, and give it to. This is an N here, but when this N comes with this E over here like this, it reads as a B. B or a V. So you're looking at an E, G-E, and then a V-E-T-O, to give it to. And so this, this, what looks like an E-V-E is actually an E-N-E, but the people in the know, they knew that was an E-V-E, and that's where we get it today. That's how this ancient Greek letter N turned into our letter V. And most of the time you see it like this in the other Bible. It'll have the mark and it reads backwards, so it's actually a B and then an E-N, and it means Ben, and it's in the time of Ben, same as the sons in Hebrew. And you don't see it here. This whole line is written different. After Bethlehem spelled different, it's totally different. And the first time this reads through, the H, that's the CH in the Hebrew, turns into the E in the Greek, and this X turns into the CH, and it's to each. To each is in pass. And with the mark up here, it's actually P-S-A-S. And so it's not pass, but it's possessed. But at one time you read it, the each is in pass. But when it's possessed, you're reading it with the upper markings, and then you're reading this backwards anyway. And then it's B, in sex it has, in possess, he polys, he many. And so it was this Ruth 120 in the Hebrew that I read in that movie yesterday that had me come look at this, where it was talking about the A-L-I-E-N, the alien, that it caused me to come look at this in the Greek. And here it's and hype. The E is the H-Y-P-E, H-I-P-E, and the hype. Not just in said, but hype, force, what as. And the hype, force, what as, me, medical eat. And so this is the medical, but it's also the medic elite. This is where that word elite come from, ALEITE. You know, the doctor, the elite. And the hype force what as medical elite. You know, kind of like what's been going on past couple years. It's like they caught them in the bottleneck, you know, when they were coming down the Silk Road. And yeah, there is no Bethlehem. That's a bottle. They were caught in the bottleneck. But what it does say, the poor youth is on. The poor, and EUTHHSES. The poor youth is on. And this D can be turned into this TH. And this TH can be turned into this D. And it's not and, that's the. And the poor youth is on. The amp, you know, on both. They'll say the amp is on both. Surrounding. You know, amphitheater is not on both. It's surrounding. And same as amphibians. They'll say both water and land, but it doesn't. It means surrounding. You know, and the amphitheater. And so ateria is a place. You know, the surrounding place. You know, you go to the cafeteria to get your cafe. You know, ateria. They totally leaving this out of the translation. But the poor youth is on the amphitheater, around both sides of those two. Forage. This P here is an FAR, the foraging. And that's why in this, when it started, you know, they were leaving. People don't leave until you run out of food. You know, that's when people start foraging, they go searching. And so it's, you know, the PARA is to cover. You know, when you're foraging, you go cover everything. It's also the forage. And then the NE, you know, is B. It means in, the foraging. And the foragings, they, what as? That's what they're doing, what as? They're out there foraging. Not they're arriving, but foraging. What as this embottle them. You know, they were surrounded on both sides. And this place that they were surrounded was here at this route, ROUTE, the route D, the THE, the of the Jackal, the Jackal with his N. You know, the Chinese have a bunch of investments in Czech right now, where their new Silk Road's going through, but that's where the old one went through too. And they'll have you to believe that all this Silk Road was all to get goods to Europe and Greece and Italy, but that ain't what was going on. They were trying to get up here to the real money, up here in the Netherlands and Britain. And that's where this road run through, right through here, through the Czechs. It's right out here about the middle right here. You know, the lay-on of this route of the Czechlo, this in auth. And auth is the right to create an author. And somewhere in here it even spells out the Chinese. And here's a funny one here. What it means to kiss your mother-in-law is to the fear on then phone. You know, phone and hollering. You know, the phone is to be heard a long distance away. The phone and hollering. And the fear on then phoning. What on to the, you know, this is a verb. It's and or to or W, U, or V. It could be either way. And to the clause on. Clause is a Santa Claus, a stipulation. The stipulation of the contract. ETI, it make. And this is written like this for the other Bible where it usually reads backwards. And it's, you know, the yet it. But it make to acate, you know, something's judicated, you know, it's to take action, to take action. The file is in, you know, QILESEN, the file's in. And to take action, the files in are OR, our fate in, our fatin. Our fatin penter on, the kiss of her mother-in-law. Our fatin penter on of this. We fester, if is in. This tone lay on of this route, the Jackals with has in, off, to make. And so they've been working on this for several thousand years. And here's another big old clue that they're talking about Libya smashers. They should become manly. Shall you wait for them until of which time? There's no way that they're getting of which time out of that. They should become manly. And it's much, M-H, much what to us forced, it says. Forced, it's cesty. It's, the forced, E-T-S-E-S-T. That's an ancient term for putting on a woman's girdle that wasn't easy to get on, to forced it cest. The cest, the forced the cest. Those of. And run those in. And run those in. Run those in is when you're going to run your sword through somebody, and run those in. Should become manly. And your sword is not a piece of steel. And I tell you this word for woman, this is gonna. And sometimes it's gonna yakos, and sometimes it's gina. But here, this is gonna, and they totally leave this out. They know this means away, away, await. And so this reads await on, and gonna await on. But I believe that China was in the other Bible, because I don't remember seeing how they interpreted it. But you can see this better in this Bible. This is that one they were calling it, kissed her mother-in-law. And it's the fear on, then phone in. What on to the clause on it, to Kate, to carry out, to Kate. The files in our fate in pent here on, depending on, in our fate in pent here on depends of this. And apostrophes in, this is where your word apostrophe comes from, and that's exactly what it means, is to turn around. The same way when I see this apostrophe, it tells me to read this word backwards and then forwards, and that's what it actually means, is a paw, is a way to turn, to strophe. And the apostrophes in, it's spelled many different ways, and this is kind of like the pest, like you're not being able to go down the easy route. You're having to strafe sideways, climb through the rocks. The apostrophes in this tone lay on, in this tone, in the tone of what has just been said, in this tone lay on, of this route, the Jackalo, with has in off, is off, to create. That's the Greek word for create, the off. Author, the creator. And this is that same word apostrophe here, apo, away, and the strafe say, the apostrophe say, away to turn say. But with the mark, when you're reading it the second time with the marks, it reads a whole lot different, because then you're reading it backwards first, and so it's a total different word. And you see the markings in this word, how it's here now. And so it's so at it, O-T and then I-T, at it. And so at it, and swap, S-W-O-P, the swap of, O-V, and then O-P, and then here, and, upon, A-E is E-S, upon is on, for youth, F-O-R-E-U-T-H, E, and then the curve on the top, as you grab the last letter, so you read that TH twice, and for it, youth it, and then the line underneath has you read it back the other way, and it's, THU is to, and it's like through. THU is an address to where letters going through, and to, the way it's getting there, to where of OF, and then back this way, SC, and then back the other way, S. And for youth it to hear of says, for who some may vow, VOW. And so, it was just genius. You got several different books here. You buy one book and you get to read 3 different books. It's genius way of writing. But you see in here several times, it's talking about the agro workers and the move. MOAV, the move, the agro move, the portable agro workers. And you see it come up several times at the bottom like that, I believe, too. The agro, AGROU, the agro move. Agro move. And I think they just say this is the field of Moab. And in the Hebrew, the field of Moab, the field is a side. And it's where you word the genocide and the menacide and the suicide, you kill. And so when you're out there in the field, you're laying dead in the agro move. So it reads totally different from the Greek to the Hebrew. But the 2 Greek stories are different too. Or the 2 Greek Bibles are different. And then like I say, there's different stories across here depending on the markings that you're reading. And you can see in this Bible, that other line I just read where it's forced, it's cessed of those of. You see how this word now changed to, where it was with an N down here and run to sin. Now they remove the and so it's had, AD is had. Everything's starting with a vowel, you can give it an H. And had run to sin, Soten, S-O-T-E-N. Soten, W-R-D, Soten weird, the weird kind of synchronizing. And then in the Hebrew on this line 9, and when she kissed them and lifted up, it's what 'tis calling, Q-L-E-N. What is calling, what Tess saying. And so what Tess is the harvest. What harvest saying, fooling, is the fooling what of kind, the fooling what of kind. And so this Naomi, N-O-M-Y, it was the nome and it was the sign of the place, but also, it let you know who was the law in that place. It was the sheriff's name is what it is, the law. But this what of kind, this is also what of chine, the dot in here. It's either a C-E or a C-H. C-H-I-N-E, the China. And this is something that all your Hebrew teachers will tell you is opposite. They'll say that this is the K and without it is the K-H. But they're wrong. I've done read too much of this and it doesn't fit. This is the K-E or the C-E or the C-H. And without the dot is just the K. And then opposite over here in the Greek, they had a different way of writing China. And you can tell, this is homey, so this is the Hebrew people, and none of my people. And so, to the hype in no homey, to is doozy. That's where your word doozy come is. And to the hype, no, none of my people, none of my homies. To is a doozy nymph phase. A nymph phase. That's just a phase, not permanent. So a nymph phase means, young, immature, and still forming. Offs, rights. For youth it, E-U-T-H-E-T-E. F-O-R-E-U-T-H-E-T-E. For youth it. D-apostrophe. And so D-apostrophe is making fun of the Chinese women who away to strap the feet. It's easier to marry your daughter off if her feet look like apostrophe, because her husband knows she's not going to run off, I guess, not very fast anyway. So I guess she was worth more money like that. To hype is no homie, to his doozy nymph phase. Off for youth it. The apostrophe. The cast. This is the cast. The each, everybody in my play, everybody in the show, the cast. And it's talking about the heavens, the stars, And if you act really good, you become a star, And so the cast is the stars. And the cast hissed on, hissed like a serpent, the hissed. See it all throughout the Hebrew, the hisses. They hissed on, and how con mothers of this metros possibly mothers, possibly city, and possibly timing the length, the meter as of this. And the itch say, the poets, the mouth itches is the creation. When you're scratching your mouth, you're thinking better. And the poets say, curious met. Curious meth, with. If you go met somebody, you're with them. And curious met them on the Leos, the lions, kados. And so this TH, is also the D. And it's kados, and that's nuts. An avocado is a father, and a cado is the nutsack. It's a nutsack of kados. Kick you off in your kados. And so the lion's nutsack. The poet is 8. Metaton. So metaton is the 19-year lunar cycle, but it's also, within tone, within the fashion, metaton, within the fashion. Teeth and check it on. You're buying a horse and you're checking its teeth. The TETH and the teeth in CHK, the check it on. To, with, them of. And then doe, DOE, the female deer. Doe, curious. Female curious. Whom in to who roit. Roit is a slang term for masturbation and ejaculation. And so, I learn all this while I'm reading. These are words that I've only heard once in my life and don't even know what they mean. I have to look most of these words up. But the doe curious, the feminine curious, whom in to who roit. On a pause in, to slow it down, to rest. On a pause in. And so on a pause in is to slow it down, but it's also, done with the female hand is a paw, the cat's paw. On a pause in, the cast, the actors involved, the cast in. Oiko, co, the two of them, and oi, to call. The oiko, the oiko, the basic societal unit in ancient Greece, a household or family. Oikos. On a pause in the cast in the household, not the house, but the household. And rose, and ANDROS, and rose, there was no husband there. And rose, offs, and rights, and authorize, to a creator, a head, offs. And to Kate the files in. What as we fear on, then phone in what on. To the claws on. So the claws on is don't mess with the cat. That's a good clause. Don't mess with the big cat. So it's an ancient, most beautiful pornographic comedy. And why Christians think it's fit to be read in a church, it's just beyond comprehension. So I've just been scrambling through here and reading parts of this. I started at the bottom, but it was a couple years ago that I read all 4 of these chapters of Ruth. And when I read it then, I wasn't near as skilled, but I still, what I was reading then was it was 2 women that were running a whorehouse. And now it kind of looks more like, they were moving with the agro workers, because they knew that's where the money was. And so that there was a famine, this is how they rove, R-O-V. You're roving around looking for something to eat. this dot here means this in, there's two B's. And this is read in barracks, B-A-R-X, in the barracks, as you would put up your army. And if you had an army of agro workers, you put them up in the barracks when they came. And so I'd have to read this again, but yeah, they were probably working the fields and working the barracks at the same time, doubling up their money. And so it's not Ruth and Naomi, it's the route and the law. And these words would be read different, throughout here. And the whole Bible's like that. There's no names in there. There's types of people and types of situations going on in the heavens. And that's why the names are never spelt the same. They always have different directional markings and they read different ways. And so there's no name here. It says uses haze. The type of person that uses haze, that uses beatings, all of them like, to drive cattle out on horseback or to force a potential recruit, to perform strenuous, humiliating, or dangerous task. And uses haze, all of them like, and says as it autonomy, to self-govern, and says sign in new. From Helen, from Greece, to Clewin, to attach when, apart is, from invite less. So I was thinking I was going to make a short movie, but my program's fixed to crash.
Don't forget, I won't forget.
Alright, I'm going to cut this off here. Good day.